This video covers the basic configuration settings required to establish a WORP link for the following Tsunami, Edge, and ORiNOCO outdoor products. The Tsunami QB-10250 series, the L and the S. The Tsunami MP-10250, the BSX. The Tsunami XP-10100 series, the Edge 1000 series. We have the ORiNOCO QB, the outdoor 9100 series, and the older QB MP-800 series and the QB MP-8200 series. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at the basic settings that are required to establish a link for the Tsunami Quick Bridge 10100 series and for the ORiNOCO 9100 series. So when you log into both radios by default, they are configured to link up. Okay, over here I did change the IP address, but by default they are 169.254.128. One is 131, the other one is .132. Okay, so when you log into both, it's going to automatically put you into the wizard. Okay, and this is basically all the information that you need. So right now I am in .131, which is going to be our endpoint A, and then this is .32, it is going to be endpoint B. Okay, so the settings are actually quite simple. For them to hook up, again, by default they will hook up, but if you're going to make any changes, tell you what needs to match by default. Okay, so the device name is just that. It's, you want to call it building A and then building B. Okay, that's all it is. It's just the device name of the radio. Okay, network mode, that's just bridge or routing. You could have one bridge or one routing, but that's not going to stop you from actual connecting. And then you have your IP address. Okay, remember the IP address is just for management, but typically myself, I recommend making this part of your network. Okay, so when you click next, this is where you're going to have your link details. This is the more important part right here. Okay, so the network name. Okay, so let me go over here. So the network name has to match. Okay, very important. If you make a change on A, you have to go and make a change on B. It is case sensitive. It has to match. Okay, very important. One radio is going to be endpoint A. The other radio is going to be an endpoint B. Okay, a quick note that when you reset both radios back to factory defaults, both end up as endpoint A, and the IP address is going to be the same, .131. So you just need to go in there and make the proper changes. That is covered in the reset and the force reload videos. Okay, so make sure that you have the proper radio mode. Okay, the country. Make sure that you have the proper country regulatory domain set on both. Okay. Operation mode, this one is HT and this is VHT. By default, this is set to VHT, which is very high throughput. This is what the 10100s use. If you're going to use it in conjunction with a 8200 or a 820 radio, it has to be set to HT mode. That's just backwards compatibility. Channel bandwidth, by default, they are set to 20. Okay, auto channel enable. On the A, I would leave that disable and select whatever channel you want. Remember, if you're going to be in the lab, it really won't matter. And over here, I would have it set. Now, as you can see, you don't have this option because in most countries, you just don't have that option. And it's a good option because if you need to do troubleshooting, you don't have to go to both radios back and forth, and especially if you're using DFS, dynamic frequency selection, it's required by your domain. Okay, and last but not least, you could see the encryption. It is disabled. Okay, so if you are going to enable it, make sure that you type in the same key as you do here and here. Very important. They have to match. So at the end of the day, what has to match is, okay, your network name. This has to match. Okay, this has to match, this has to match, and this has to match. So pretty much everything has to match between here and here. Obviously, the only difference is that one radio is going to be an A, and then the other radio is going to be a B. After you're done, just go ahead and click Finish. Okay, I'm going to disable it because I'm not using. Go ahead and click Finish. Always do the remote radio first. Okay, that way you don't lose access to your local to your local radio. Okay, so you do that, and then the radio is going to reboot, and then you should have a link. If you do not have a link in the lab environment, you must have changed something. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the basic configuration. So basically what it takes to set up a link by default. On the Tsunami and ORiNOCO products. Okay, so right here we have a QB-9100 series. This also applies to the QB-9100 series. Also applies to the QB-8200 and the QB-820. Now, mind you, for the QB-10100 series and the QB-9100 series, to reach this particular GUI, the old GUI as you will, the classic GUI, you have to log in under advanced, or if you logged in under admin and you have version 650 and above, okay, and this little icon over here, you could go over here to advanced, click on this, and then that's going to take you to here. Okay, but for all of the products that I mentioned, it's all going to be the same, okay, if you're on this screen. Okay, but this really applies to the 820 and the 8200 series. Okay, so what we have here is basic. Okay, majority of the settings we have in basic. So what I have here is an endpoint A, and I have an endpoint B radio. So what happens is that when you get these radios out of the box, okay, quick bridge, they are configured to connect automatically. Okay, the only thing is the IP address is 169.254.128.131, and then the other one is 132. Okay, so if they do not link out of the box, there's something else that is wrong. So the basic configurations are going to be, you got to make sure that your frequency domain is set correctly. Okay, your radio mode, either A or B. Again, by default, one is A, one is B. If you reset these radios back to factory, both radios become A's. Very important. Okay, your channel bandwidth, your operation mode. Now, this really applies to the 10100 and ORiNOCO 9100 series. The auto channel. Okay, the auto channel, the A should have it disabled, but the B should have it enabled. It does make troubleshooting easier. That way you don't have to go back and forth and select the channel. It will automatically select the channel for you. If it doesn't like it, you can automatically switch back to a better channel and it will connect. Okay, and network name. So what needs to what is very important is going to be the network name, of course, the channel. You have your radio mode select. Okay, if you change the network name and it does not match over here, okay, between the A and the B radio, you're not going to get a link. Very important. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention is the system name. The system name is just that. It's just a name for the system. Building A, building B. It has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with anything, unless if you have like a redundancy system and you have like two quick bridges, you could put a an endpoint name here. That's the only time it matters, but that's a different video. Okay, so what else? Other things going to have to make sure they're the same. Click on advanced configuration, go on security. Okay, click on wireless security. Okay, and go ahead and click on edit. So by default, there is no encryption enabled. Okay, there is none. So if you have encryption enabled on one and you don't have it on another, I would disable it on the one that has it enabled. Click OK and commit, and then the link should go up. Okay, and then you have the network secret. It is very important that that they are the same. Now, by default, once again, these are all they all match, and because this is kind of hidden, chances are, unless you are familiar with the radios, you're not going to make that change. But the network secret, again, is very important to security. Okay, if you're going to be using like AES encryption, click OK. Now you're going to have a field here. Make sure that this key matches from here to your B radio. Okay, vice versa. All right, let me go ahead and disable that. I don't want to lose my link. Okay, so once again, reset the radios back to factory defaults. Everything matches. Only difference is the radio. Both of them go to radio A. Just go to your foreign radio, send it to radio B, click OK and commit, and it's gonna reconnect. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the MP radios right now. Okay, the MP-10100s, and the XB 10100s. Okay, they're all going to be the same configuration. Okay, so when you power these things on, they're automatically going to go to the wizard. All right, so we have here a base station. In this case is a BS9, and over here we have an XB. Okay, an XB is a subscriber, one end, and then an access point. All in one, but it's still a subscriber. So again, so when you power these things on right off the bat, they are going to go to the setup wizard. All right. So the basic configuration settings, again, they are going to connect right off the bat. So if this is a brand new install for you, that's basically what you just power them up in a lab environment, and they're going to go ahead and connect. Now, if you are already have a system that's kind of in place, these are the kind of the basic settings that you're going to need for your connection to start up. So let me go ahead and start. It should be fairly short. All right, so we have all that basic info here. The device name is that something simple, base station 1, building 1, or whatever. Network name, it's going to be mode. It's either bridge or routing. Okay. You have the IP address of the static or dynamic. By default, these come in 169.254, 128.132. Okay, just go ahead and change the IP address, the mask, and then the gateway. Click next. Okay, so the network name is extremely important, okay, especially when you already have an existing base station and you have a subscriber that you're adding to it. It has to match. It's extremely important that it matches. Out of the box, if you have your base and subscribers, they're just going to connect. Radio mode. Base station subscriber, that's only in a base station. If you have a subscriber, you only get a subscriber. Like right over here. If we click next, you'll see it's blanked out. I mean, it's blanked. You don't have that option. Country code, depending on radio you have. This is a US model, so of course we have all our US. If this is a world model, you're definitely going to have all your world countries and your channels. Operation mode, VHT is very high throughput. That's for the 10100 series. And HT is if you are doing backwards compatibility between a 20 or a 8200 series radio. Right. You have your channel bandwidth. Okay, by default it comes with 20. Auto channel selection. By default, it is disabled on the base station. It's a good idea. Where you want it, your preferred channel, then your encryption is off. When we look at the subscriber, you could see we have the same network name, the radio mode, and then the country, the VHT, 20 megahertz, and then encryption. Again, just like the network name, encryption is important because by default it's disabled. If you have it enabled, make sure it's enabled on all of your radios and you have all the information matching. It is case sensitive. After you're done, just go ahead and click Next. Make sure that you do this first on all of your remote radios. If this is a brand new install, if it's an existing install, obviously you're just going to do it on your subscribers. Just go ahead and click Next. It's going to save and reboot the radio. Okay, so lastly, let's go ahead and take a look at the basic settings for the 10100 family and also the 8200 family. So for the 10100 family, what we're looking at is the advanced GUI. Okay, typically you go in here by, if we click here, new GUI, and then with from a version 650 and above, you have this little thing over here, click in advanced, that's going to take you to here. Now the reason why I'm covering is there are some individuals that prefer the older GUI, and this is what the 8200 basically looks like as well. Also the 820 version when also logged in under advanced. Right, and this is definitely one of the things we already covered on the QB side, and be honest with you, it is somewhat identical. The only two differences that for the radio mode, it's either BSU or SU if you have a BSU instead of an endpoint A or endpoint B. Okay, so since this is a base station, we have both options here, and for the SU, go over here, you could see the radio mode is just SU. Okay, so let me go ahead and switch back to the BSU. So what we have is, of course, the basics. System name is just that, just describes what the radio is. We have a frequency domain that has to be the same. We already covered this. By defaults, once again, if this is a brand new install, you have a base station satellite, they will link up. If you already have a base station, you're adding new satellites, just make sure that you have the domain, the channel bandwidth. This particular mode is strictly for if you have a 10100 series. Again, VHT is for very high throughput. That's only for the 10100 series. HT is legacy mode, if you will. That's for backwards compatibility between a 8200 and 820 series. Okay, so you have to make sure that one of these two is correctly set. Auto channel select on the base station should be disabled, and the subscribers, depending on what domain you're in, you won't even have this feature. Again, the channel, because the auto channel select is on the subscribers, you just don't have to worry about it. Obviously, you need a clean channel. Okay, and then you have the network name. Okay, very important that the network name matches between base and all satellites. Okay, then we go down to advanced and then security, and then wireless security. Go ahead and click on edit. Now by default there is no encryption, so if you enable encryption on the base, make sure that you enable on all subscribers. By default it's not enabled, so if this is your first install, don't worry about it. Okay, and then the network secret is important. Again, by default it's public, but if you change it on the base station, make sure that you change it on all the radios. If you're already installing additional subscribers and you changed it on the base and the subscribers, make sure you change it there. Okay. Last but not least, just go ahead and click OK and then commit, and that is it. Okay, so this portion only applies to the Edge series of radios. Because the Edge has a built-in antenna, integrated antenna, and also has the option to attach external antennas, okay, we have to make sure that the proper setting is set. So by default it's set to integrated. Right, so during the installation process, if you have external antennas connected to the radio, make sure that in the wizard you go to antenna type, select external, and then click next. It'll take you through here to the link details, and then click finish. Okay, you could also do it through WORP config as well, but again by default we are set to integrated. If you both radios or multiple radios, if you have a MP and multiple satellites like we have here, make sure that you do the exact same thing. If you have a quick bridge, make sure that you select the appropriate antenna type as well. But by default, they are set to integrated, the built-in antennas. And if you are using external antennas, make sure that you select external.